Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking the massive, absolute paradigm shift hitting marketing in 2026. Look, if you've been feeling like the ground beneath your digital strategy is completely unstable right now, like if your customer acquisition costs are suddenly spiking and your usual go-to channels are drying up, you are absolutely not alone. The rules of the game are literally changing overnight. But don't worry, because today we're going to give you the precise operational playbook you need to not just survive this shift, but actually thrive in it. This central question from our source material really gets right to the heart of all that budget anxiety. I mean, think about it. How do you allocate budget when the discovery landscape is literally shifting beneath your feet? Are we genuinely prepared for the fact that traditional search is being fundamentally disrupted? Consumers are just bypassing traditional search engines altogether now to ask AI for direct answers. We're dealing with an entirely new era where AI-generated syntheses are replacing those familiar blue links. And honestly, the reliable playbook from just a year ago, it's rapidly becoming obsolete. So, here's our game plan for navigating this chaotic channel landscape together. First, we'll look at the third marketing disruption. Then, we'll break down the 3 discovery models, dive into the Discover budget framework, outline the 7 golden rules, and finally, get you set up with your interactive budget planner. Let's jump in. Part 1, the third marketing disruption. Let's look at how history is repeating itself. To really understand why your survival depends on adapting right now, we first need to look at this historical pattern of missed opportunities. Every decade or so, the marketing world hits a massive reset button. Back in 2003, Google disrupted absolutely everything by making user intent searchable. Suddenly, you could put an ad right in front of someone actively looking for your exact product. Then, in 2010, Facebook disrupted everything again by making user identity targetable, letting you find your exact demographic regardless of what they were searching for. And now we have the 2025 shift where ChatGPT and generative AI are making recommendations conversational. The clear, undeniable lesson here is that early movers in 2003 and 2010 gained a massive structural advantage simply because attention was severely underpriced. Brands that jumped in early built empires. Those who waited around for perfect case studies, well, they ended up paying full price later when the market got saturated. That exact same window of underpriced attention is wide open right now for AI-driven discovery, but trust me, it won't stay open for long. Moving right along to part 2, 3 discovery models, and how we categorize the 2026 landscape. With over 15 distinct channels aggressively competing for your marketing budget today, we desperately need to simplify the chaos, right? So we group them into specific behavioral models. You're no longer just choosing between search and social. You have to allocate your budget across 3 distinct discovery models. The intent-based and identity-based models, like Google and Meta, are fully mature. They're highly saturated, highly optimized, and honestly, increasingly expensive. But that third layer, the AI recommendation-based model, is emerging. Think about how this works in real life. Instead of searching best CRM for small business on a traditional search engine, clicking through 10 different links, and opening 10 tabs to evaluate, a buyer just asks ChatGPT. The AI then synthesizes the entire internet into one definitive recommendation. It is a ruthless, winner-take-all environment. If your brand isn't explicitly named in that AI output, you are entirely invisible to that buyer. And because this layer is still emerging, it offers that rare, underpriced structural discount for those willing to get in early. Which brings us to part 3, the Discover budget framework, a strategic 7-step process. Look, instead of just copying last year's budget, tweaking it by 5% and calling it a day, or blindly chasing whatever shiny new channel pops up, you need a highly disciplined approach. The Discover acronym walks you through this rigorous process. You start by diagnosing your current mix, identifying the right discovery model for your buyer's behavior, and setting clear objectives. You absolutely have to establish strict channel economics, really understanding your customer acquisition cost versus lifetime value, and then secure your organic baseline. But actually, the most critical part of this entire framework are those final steps: validating, evolving, and reallocating quarterly. In the AI era, you must rerun your allocations every 90 days. A sudden algorithm shift in March can make a perfectly planned February budget totally useless by April. Annual planning? Yeah, that's a relic of the television and print era. If you're locking in a 12-month budget right now, you're essentially flying blind for 9 of those months. Agile marketing teams in 2026 work in rigorous 90-day sprints. Now for part 4, the 7 golden rules. These are the strategic guardrails for your survival. Frameworks are a great starting point, sure, but we need to set up the specific boundaries and operating principles that separate the marketing managers who thrive from those who just barely survive. Rule number 1 is a hard, non-negotiable boundary. Never allocate more than 40% of your total budget to a single channel. Why? Because concentration risk is the silent killer of marketing performance. When your entire program relies on one channel's continued efficiency, you are making a heavily leveraged, highly dangerous bet. I mean, just think back to the iOS 14 privacy update a few years ago. Brands that had 80% of their budget tied up in meta ads, they were virtually wiped out overnight when targeting changed. By strictly enforcing this 40% cap, you actively build a structurally resilient, diversified budget pie. You are inherently protecting yourself when a major platform's privacy regulations tighten, or their algorithm inevitably changes without any warning. If one channel suddenly crashes or gets ridiculously expensive, your overall marketing ecosystem absorbs that shock. You still have other channels driving revenue while you figure out how to fix the broken one. Diversification is, for sure, your primary insurance policy. Another absolute boundary is carving out 10 to 15% of your budget permanently for AI visibility. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, it's essentially the new SEO. It is not an ad campaign, it's infrastructure. Investing in AI visibility means shifting budget toward digital PR, earning authoritative third-party mentions, and structuring your website's content in a way that large language models can easily ingest and cite. The goal is to make sure that when Claude, Perplexity, or ChatGPT describe your product category, your brand is natively included in their conversational synthesis. This is a foundational investment that compounds over years. Do not treat this as a fleeting experiment you just try for a month. Treat it as mandatory baseline infrastructure so you don't disappear from the consumer consideration set entirely. The remaining golden rules emphasize a massive shift in how we actually measure success. First off, last-click attribution is actively misleading in 2026. A typical modern buyer touches 7 to 12 different channels before finally converting. If you only give credit to the last thing they clicked, you're going to defund the exact channels that generated awareness in the first place. You must move to incrementality testing, measuring what marketing spend actually caused a net new sale that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Also, keep a strict 12-month payback period for small to mid-sized businesses to maintain healthy cash flow. And finally, build your defensible triangle: brand, organic content, and AI visibility. When you invest heavily in these 3 areas, you're building a fortress of owned assets. That is your ultimate shield against the unpredictable costs of rented paid platforms. Finally, Part 5, your interactive budget planner. Let's talk about executing the playbook. Okay, so we've established the history, the theoretical models, the framework, and the new rules of the game. Now let's talk execution, because this is where the rubber really meets the road. The source material includes an absolutely incredible operational tool to turn all this complex theory into actionable reality: the Interactive 2026 Marketing Budget Planner. This isn't just some static, boring template where you punch in a few numbers. It is a dynamic, intelligent tool designed to help you map out your spend and test your allocations directly against the playbook's operational guardrails we just talked about. What makes this planner so incredibly powerful is its built-in intelligence. It basically acts like an unemotional CFO, looking right over your shoulder. It's constructed directly around the Discover Allocation framework. As you input your proposed budget numbers, the real-time Golden Rules compliance dashboard actively flags vulnerabilities for you. So for example, if you accidentally allocate 45% of your spend to a single channel, the dashboard instantly flashes a warning that you are breaching that critical 40% concentration cap. It also houses an interactive 15-question quarterly performance audit checklist. This ensures you know exactly what mechanics need fixing every 90 days, totally preventing you from drifting off strategy. Crucially, the planner also includes this automated budget reallocation trigger matrix. We established earlier that reallocation shouldn't just happen at the end of a quarter, right? Some market signals require immediate mid-quarter action. This matrix takes the panic, the emotion, and the guesswork completely out of pivoting. It tells you exactly what action to take when a specific metric spikes or drops. For instance, if your customer acquisition cost rises over 30% for 4 consecutive weeks, the matrix triggers a rigid directive: pause spend for 1 week, run an audit, and then resume at 50% capacity. Or if your AI visibility drops significantly, it triggers an all-hands emergency sprint. It functions as a proactive, automated defense system for your entire budget strategy. As you get ready to download this planner and audit your 2026 strategy, I want you to slow down and really consider this pivotal question. Is your budget currently dangerously over-indexed on rented attention? You know, the kind of visibility that just vanishes the very second your credit card declines? Or are you actively securing your fortress by building a structural, owned advantage in the new AI recommendation layer? The marketing managers who thrive in 2026 are not going to be the ones frantically chasing every single new trend. They will be the ones who meticulously balance their mature channels while confidently securing their AI visibility. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Now it's time to get to work.